I was about 15 minutes away from getting off the elevated subway in the same city. While I was waiting, a woman wearing glasses asked people for money. He walked up to me and paused for a while and asked, "I'm sorry, can I? Are you planning to save some money? My brother is in the hospital and I want some money for him to buy flowers." "That's fine, I think." Man's lines became more and more obvious. I gave her $5 without seeing her face in her. I was sure of her intentions. My train stopped and I sat down. I watched her through the glass, asking for money when the train was leaving. The train arrives in 15 minutes. I get off to the bus station. Only one bus goes in the direction of travel. Good luck. I got on the bus, waited for the bus driver to finish reading the newspaper and the door closed. We went out to the streets. After driving for about 510 minutes, the driver arrived at a regular bus stop and the door opened. To my surprise, a lady on the elevated train boarded the bus, holding more than 10 roses in his hand. When he walked by and sat down, he looked straight into my eyes. How did he get there? I got on the train before her. When she left, I saw her in the bus stop. I have already crossed the river. I took the first and only bus like that. Not only did he beat me there, but he also managed to go to the store and buy a dozen roses. In the winter of 2018, after the massage, I did massage from morning to night. I once worked with a client named Jerry, who was a charming and polite 75-year-old man. I immediately understood him Jerry's name because I rarely find Jerry where I live. He also received attention because he was the only client who wanted to speak during the entire meeting. He told me his wife and children. He told me his son has just finished his studies and already has his own career. He told me he was proud of his son being seriously injured in the army and working hard to recover. Then he told me that the soldier had retired himself. Soldier always let me surprised, so I listened to him like a child, and finally he told me his lung cancer. He did not want to be treated, and he was told that he was going to die. About 5 years ago, she mysteriously survived without chemotherapy, so we talked about many very specific details of her life. When I turned over on his chest, I also saw a big scar on his shoulder during his military service. So I wrote to him to see if he remembered or if I was worried. Complete. Another colleague of mine came out from behind and said the same thing as last time. The way he sees you and you is very strange. It seems that he knows you from somewhere, or it seems that he has fallen in love with you. Tell him I said the same thing 2 weeks ago. One day when I went to work, I suddenly felt the need to take a different road. I was working in the center of a big city. It was a strange impulse to take a different road and changed my life. A kind of life. Forever and ever. I entered an alley that I had never seen before. As far as I know, when the real error happened, I was about 15 feet. Everything in my head is turned upside down. I feel that I no longer have a body. I am just a semi-conscious body floating in another world. Suddenly, I saw many different colors and shapes. This is a strange-looking group of people. I think they are like businessmen in suits and ties. They look scared that I might see them. One of the persons took a quick step and everything went black. When I returned to my normal life, I found myself on a completely different street. This is the street where I used to work, and I feel sick and very excited, frustrated. I have never used hard drugs, I have never had hallucinations, and such things have never happened to me. Strangely, when the mistakes corrected themselves, I saw these people looking at me like people in a cage. Animals. I feel like I'm under control, which still worries me. A long time ago, I had a conversation with a former colleague, and he describes the following. The details are confusing, but he said that one day he suddenly had an urge to go out and stand on the lawn at home. He said that this was the strongest and clearest feeling in history, but he experienced a kind of hesitation. Just saying it messed up for a while, he felt a distant appearance. After speaking, he turned around and walked inside. When he talked to me, he was very upset. Let me not think he was crazy. The next thing he saw was his car parked on the street. It had the same model license plate, but a different color. He was very shocked when his wife came out and asked him what he was doing and said he understood her. Obviously this is especially true when it's his wife, but somehow it's not his wife. She likes the food she said she used to hate, and sometimes she brings up memories that have nothing to do with it. He said things like commuting to and from work remained the same. But somehow it was different. He said there were some buildings along the way that he had either missed or he had missed them during the 6 years he spent 5 days a week. Appeared overnight. He even said that some other department staff he remembered had just disappeared, asking them to cause complete confusion among other people. He is a healthy and normal person, but he said that he measured his life that day. He went on to say that he is now living her life and feels that about 15% of her life that day has naturally changed. When I was a child in England, in primary school, around 1987-ish, a brand new kid joined the varsity on a brief basis for a term. He had associate Yankee accent and was ginger. His name was Lee. Before he left us, he brought into school what nowadays would look style of sort of a pill PC. However, this was terribly skinny with brown tan glass. He had cartoons on that he entirely darling cartoons and movies. I swear this happened. I didn't dream it. It had been amazing. There was a crowd of youngsters who saw it, and their reaction was attention-grabbing as a result of they liked it and needed one examination it to the Nintendo Game and Watch and calculators, however style of accepted it and didn't assume it had been charming, but it definitely was. I aforesaid to him it was just like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy prop utilized in the TV series. He didn't apprehend what I meant. He unbroken it far from the lecturers and didn't bring it back in. I kept asking him questions about his calculator TV, and he simply gave obscure answers and speech communication he didn't know, but after I asked wherever he bought it, he aforesaid his pa got it from the US. One different issue, he said, he saw a moving picture show that had each cartoon character ever. A couple of years later I noticed he was talking concerning Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which came out before long after. This was 30 years ago, and you'll imagine how troublesome altogether now it been to explain this thing, as we tend to haven't had omnipresent tablets everywhere. I accustomed draw diagrams of it and show it to people. I went crazy after I saw the player movie Huge, the scene wherever he pitches a handheld magazine video device. My oldsters simply type acknowledged it, just pampering me. Once Star Trek TNG came out and also the pad was shown on screen, I went that the thing. Eventually, the pill computer came out, and that I keep in mind thinking finally at last, and the video iPod was any confirmation. Today, it obvious that it had been a tablet computer, and my story sounds more convenient. I suppose I may track a number of the opposite youngsters down on Facebook to prove this. I bet they would remember. Naturally, nobody believes me. In the early years of England around 1987, when I was a child, a brand new child quickly became a part of the varsity. He had Yankee accent and association and ginger. Lee was his name. Before leaving, he brought into school something that would look today like a pill style, but with a brown tan glass. It was terribly skinny. He got cartoons on it. He loves cartoons and movies completely. That happened, I swear. I did not dream. I did not dream about it. It was incredible. There were a lot of children who saw it, and it was interesting to react because they wanted it, they liked it, and compared it with a Nintendo Game and Watch and computer, but it was accepted and didn't believe it was magical, but it was. It was like the Galaxy proper Hitchhiker's Guide used in the TV series. I told him. What I meant, he didn't know. He kept the teachers away and did not return them. He just gave him vague answers and said he didn't know, but when I wondered where it was picked, his dad said he got it from the US. I always asked him questions about his calculator television. He saw a film that had all the characteristics of the cartoon ever. I realized a couple of years later that he was talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, who was coming out. It was about 30 years ago, and you can imagine how difficult it was to describe it all this time, because we didn't have anywhere any omnipresent tablets. I used to draw and show people diagrams of this. My parents only just kind of recognized it, just humoring me, when I saw Tom Hanks' movie Big. I got a crazy scenery when I saw the Tom Hanks film Big. I walked on the screen when Star Trek TNG came, and the pad showed, this is it. This is it. This is the thing. This is the thing. Finally, the PC was released, and I remember thinking finally, and the iPod video was confirmed. It is evident now that it was a tablet, and it sounds more convenient to my story. I guess I tracked down on Facebook some of the other children to prove this. I bet they'd remember. Nobody believes me, of course.